There's so many times unintentionally that my dad did tell me, who will marry you now?
Oh, coming from your dad, that's intense.
Yes, who can bear, who can put up with you, you know? Those words that were told to you that were so painful, that minute you feel like telling your child that, hold yourself.
Hi guys, welcome to Shared Moments with Justus. My name is not Justus, my name is Lily, and we are talking about the great big childhood trauma. So many, I think too many of us have experienced childhood trauma, so conversations around it are always very eye-opening and relatable. With me, it's Alexander Kinyanjui. He is a clinical psychologist working with PsychX, and he also works with the Ministry of Health. Karibu, and thank you so much for making so much time for us.
Asante.
Yeah. You can tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe just touch on childhood trauma, you know, in reference to what you do and the people that you treat. Do you sometimes get the privilege of treating children who have recently gone through trauma? Because I feel like there's an age group that only got to look for therapy when they were adults. So are things changing? Are more and more children going for therapy?
First and foremost, in my area of expertise, we mainly look at the inner child, especially when things to do with trauma disorders come to light. Try to find out how was the child or how is the child. And when you try to reach out to these kind of feelings and thoughts and experiences, what you're trying to ascertain is where the discord is. And sometimes we get to find that the child felt neglected, and I'm going to talk in length about neglecting and how it affects children, especially at a very tender age, and how also we can do and mitigate during this time where we need to find money for the same children to go to get to good schools, have good meals. So in a nutshell, I'd just like to say that children nowadays access therapy through woke parents. Let me just use the word woke, where parents understand that I cannot deal with this, not via cane, not via punishment, not via a Bible verse, but through therapy.
Yeah.
They take their children to therapy just to see can they open up to someone else, or those people can use some skills which can help them unlock and unlearn.
I feel like being woke as a parent sometimes is realizing that I am the problem.
Yes. That's part of it, and your awareness also leads you to remember. I might be passing this on. The same way you pass your genes to your child. The same way, and it's unconscious. It's not intentional. Sometimes it's not even known, but you can see how things develop. But I think during the conversations, of course, and the interview, you get to see more and more how you can notice, because it's very hard to notice for kids. Because today they're crying, tomorrow they're happy, and you're so confused. Then how do you notice the consistency or the pattern that can tell you my child needs help?
Let me go to Kelly. Kellen Wera is an author. She's an ADHD, how do you call it, warrior?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's an ongoing journey. And you are also married, you're a mom, you are a businesswoman. So much going for you. You are total goals.
Thank you.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, as you've heard, my name is Kellen. And maybe going right into childhood trauma.
Yes, go to the deep ends.
I was born into a Christian family, a normal Christian family. But one thing that was going on that I thought goes on in every other family is that there was a lot of aggression. There was a lot of aggression, throwing of words, conflict almost all the time. And I wondered, for the longest, because a child, you do not know much about the world outside of you, when I was in like standard 7 and teenagehood is kicking in is when I started realizing. And you see, by that time I was already in boarding school. So parents would come and visit their children. I would see fathers hugging their daughters. And I'm like, oh, this happens. You know, I would see parents coming very early, very, very early for their kids. Yani, you see that, just that very warm. And I was like, it started dawning on me that the situation at home was not what happens in every other home. There's a different way for it to happen. And I did not know any other way of it unfolding. So it started affecting my self-esteem. And particularly my relationship with my dad was so strained, so strained that I remember one time reading in a, I've always loved reading, and it also translates to me being a writer. Writers are readers, so I would read a lot. So I remember coming across an article, and it was some successful person being interviewed, and one of the questions that they were asked, I don't know if it's these magazines, one of them Saturday edition, ama sijui if the ones that are in katikati ya newspaper, you know. So they were being asked questions, and one of the questions was, who inspires you the most? And that person says that the one who inspires me most is my dad and mom. And I'm like, would be nice. Must be nice. You know, at that time, I so longed to say the same. I wonder, how can it be possible that somebody has such a relationship with their parents such that they actually look up to? I thank God that later things got better. And at least I can see today, the people like, one of the person who's my role model is my mom, but that was not always the case, you see. So coming into teenagehood, I really suffered severe self-esteem issues and self-confidence, and my depression started there. My mental health issues started at my upper standard 7, or maybe they had started early. I was just not cognizant of them. I was not able to know that they exist, you know. Yeah, so things at home continued to be really rough.
And let me just ask, by rough, was there physical violence?
Oh my goodness, a lot of it.
What kind? How? To what extent?
A lot of beating for anything and everything. Very aggressive fights between my mom and dad. The slightest mistake. Yani, I remember we would hear the gate imegongwa hivi, and we know it's my dad who has come, and we would all go hiding. Scatter. You don't even need to be told by anybody, because you're afraid he will come and you don't know what mistake he'll pick on you or what he'll throw at you, or, you know, it was just very, so we were tense. And you know, it is in my adulthood that I have come to overcome that need of, have I even overcome it anyway? I don't know. That need of going into hiding when people come.
Really?
Yes. You see, before I got married, I went to, I couldn't be taken from home on my wedding day because home is really far from where I was wedding. So we talked to one of our favorite couples and we told them, naeza tolewa kwenu, you know. So at that couple's place, it's also a very warm, you know, that family that is, they are friends. And I'm like, I would stay in the bedroom for so long until the man of that house one day called me and told me, you know what, Kellen? You will be at the table with us when we eat. It was so strange to them. Whereas to me, it was so strange to be at the table when others are eating. Hide before trouble comes after you.
Where would you eat at home?
At home, you just find your safe corner and then quickly retreat back. You avoid trouble at whatever. Quickly eat or and yes, you know. And it's actually that way. Like we stay away because we don't want trouble. Because also it's not predictable where that trouble will come from. The fight can literally come from a mat being not aligned. And but I would want to mention this at this point. I came to realize later on, when I became an adult and I went ferociously after my mental health healing and everything, I came to realize that was coming from a point of an unhealed inner child in both my parents. And that realization made me be so empathetic towards them and to even love them more, because it opened my eyes to see. Because I thank God, because my mom and my dad have been very open to tell us about how they were raised. They tell us, even until today, there are still fresh stories that they tell us about, stories that we've not had for all that time. Yes. So when I joined those dots, I realized that my dad grew up in a very abusive home. Like, my grandfather, up until his death, let me tell you, he could abuse you. Huh? Yani, it was very toxic. And even my dad tells it with so much passion of the way he grew up desiring to raise his family differently. So I want you to see this. This man did all what he could to try and create for us a better environment.
Yeah.
Only that at that time, or in their times, there was nothing like therapy, or if it was there, it was very stigmatized.
Yeah.
The way I see my dad today, if he was introduced to the idea of therapy earlier,
When he was younger.
it would have been much better, Now, my mom also has come from a very broken, painful, oh my goodness, traumatizing childhood, and she still tells the stories until today. So when I grew up and realized that stuff at home is not too good, and when I started going for therapy and had to connect the dots, it made me love them more. It made me understand them more. And it made me also make the decision and the resolve that, you see, that small part that my parents fell short, I'll bridge that gap. I'll bridge that gap. I'll ensure that they did a lot. They solved a lot. Like, if you compare our upbringing with their upbringing, they tackled a lot.
Yeah.
But still, there's that part of them, of the inner child, that didn't get much healing. So how about I heal my inner child so that I add my parents' progress plus my progress to raise a generation which does not carry forward the trauma, you see? Yes, so...
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Let me go to Alexander. Umesema tusikute Alex. You want Alexander the Great. Okay, so a child finds themselves going through childhood trauma from the parents, and they don't know what to make of it. They feel like hiding. How does a parent pick out that my child needs help and my child is not okay? Is there a way to know?
I'll just use her story, and
sure.
I'll just pick it up from there. One, you can tell how aware and how she understands where the parents are coming from. So even for them to notice, it will be difficult because she's having it better than the way they did. So she's being raised better according to them. So it's very hard to notice in such a context. And maybe just to pick up on a lot of things that she has mentioned earlier. And one of the things that caught my attention was by class 7, she started feeling depressed. And maybe I can just bring a concept of how childhood trauma actually forms. So as children, from age 0 to around teenage, what happens is we create endorphins in our minds. So endorphins are just opioids, natural opioids. So it's our heroin that we only produce for us to get happy.
To confuse.
Yes. So for example, endorphins help us.
It's a feel-good hormone.
It's a feel-good hormone.
Okay.
Yeah. So we produce that, and as children we produce it in massive quantities.
Really?
Yes.
That's why children can be happy so fast.
Yes, and their eyes are always open. Uncle.
Yes.
Yes, because even the word uncle just excites them. So you can see it's produced at around that time.
Yeah.
So when stress and trauma is introduced into the picture at a young age, what happens? It interferes with the production. So, and this hormone is called our attachment hormone. And attachment is non-negotiable for children. And even for adults, but for human beings as mammals, attachment is non-negotiable. That's when you can see even birds taking care of the two small birds. Elephants or cows trying to protect the cows and something. So attachment is non-negotiable, especially for that age. So when you are restricting production through stress and trauma, what happens is now you're not getting attached.
What do you mean restricting production?
Meaning, every time a child is stressed, it's not being produced.
Oh, okay.
Every time they're going through something, like the fear.
Yes.
Those are feelings that you need to minimize at all levels.
Yeah.
But you also need to introduce so that when they can see a snake, they can run. Instead of going and hugging the snake. Or when they see uncle, daddy, they can run
and not just any uncle or daddy.
Yes.
Not just any person.
Any person, yeah, but familiarity. So attachment styles. So if they're not getting attached to the parents who take care of them, because they're the most needy people at that particular point, and the attachment is very key. So attachment is not non-negotiable. So if they're not getting attached, because those are the two needs for a child, attachment and authenticity. I'm going to talk about that right now. But now attachment, if they're not getting attached, what happens is they long for that. And that's when you can see.
That's what she was talking about.
Yeah. And when the production is like at zero, that's when you hear, like the way she said, at class 7, that's when I started feeling depressed. So at this point, even the little production, so that she can get attached to someone, be it a family member or a relative,
A teacher,
it's close to zero. And she does not understand what's going on with her life. She's feeling isolated, and and then now authenticity is being in line with your inner self. So this is where kids start playing the role of being happy but not being genuinely happy. So you can look at two children playing, you can say this is really happy, like you can see from their eyes, there's a glow, there's a light that's coming out. And this child is smiling the same way, but you can tell.
Yeah.
They know that when I'm brought a gift, I should be yay. So the yay in line with the expectation, but not the yay that is coming from inside. So what happens is you can tell these two children, this one is, so authenticity means she still continues her life after class 7 and above. When parents do this, and you step on someone, say please, or thank you, or sorry. So the script was still there, but now they're not in line. Now leads to depression in kids, because whatever they are feeling and whatever they are doing is not the same. It's not marrying, because initially it's automatic. Now they have to think about it.
yeah.
You see, you have to think about your reaction, and you have to naturally act on the reaction. So that's what happens in most cases, especially in childhood trauma and stresses that are caused, especially now for kids who are facing physical
Abuse.
Yeah.
And let's gosh, there's so much to talk about. But can you very quickly draw the line between caning for discipline purposes? I know that's become a very uncomfortable topic in this day and age. Some people say absolutely no caning. But for those who say spare the rod, spoil the child, where do you draw the line between caning for disciplining purposes and abuse?
Yeah, so I believe it's also found in religious context.
Yes.
Yes. And now we pick out, especially on religion, we pick out what favors us,
Yes.
or what speaks for us.
Uh-huh.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. But the rod holder should have an attachment with this person that they are holding a rod for.
Yes.
So if I am punishing you and I've just met you, you're getting the abuse. You're not getting the lesson that I'm trying to teach you.
That's the parent who just walks in, picks up an issue, starts caning.
Yes.
And the child is like, oh, I'm being caned.
Even if it's true, they have messed up, but they're not getting the lesson. So if you use only that part, and then we forget the person who's holding the rod on this other end,
Yeah.
who is this person to this? You can find, I've seen women cane kids as if they want to kill them
Yes.
with a sleep, but 2 minutes later, this child is hugging the same person and saying, Mom, are we going to walk? Are we going to the market? Why do you think that happens? The attachment style is there. They've attached. So this fight is between two people who have attached. You do not get involved.
Yeah.
You see, for that, for such a reaction, the kid does not go to a corner and isolate and cringe. The child comes back to the oppressor according to this situation and hugs the oppressor and quickly moves on to the next topic because we are done with this. I messed up, you corrected, we are done. Are we going to the market?
Oh, but this is not the mother who was about to kill the child with slippers.
It is still the same mother.
So is that a good thing or?
I'm just trying to show the context that without the proper attachment style, you find such parents who came that way, it's maybe once in 2 years.
Okay, so are you saying it's okay?
I'm not saying it's okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm just giving a context because legally it's not okay.
Uh-huh.
Psychologically it's not okay because of the burden that it brings.
Yeah.
But culturally it happens.
I think that then introduces another complexity in the child's mind where you sort of end up getting attached to people who hurt you, isn't it?
No, not
Or adulthood.
It only happened once in 2 years.
I'm just
so
saying
that day,
yeah.
The point I'm getting that he's trying to drive is if you don't have a working relationship with your child, you don't even need to hit them like you are killing them. Even when you're trying to discipline them, they are not going to interpret it as discipline. They are going to interpret it as you hate me.
All right. So it's the pre-existing relationship you're talking about. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. If you have the parent who is killing the child and you see the child coming back, does not necessarily mean that they're being attached to the abuse or the abuser.
Yeah.
It's just that the child has received, I did something, I broke the glass, I'm punished, it's over, we are moving on. You see, that chapter is closed because of the level of attachment. But the ones who are deprived of that and going through stress and trauma, what happens is, even if they're being corrected, maybe even if it's one cane on the hand, that was very wrong. They will not see that was very wrong. They'll see you hate me.
Yes.
Abuse.
All right.
Yes, because the lack of attachment, so you are beating, you're not correcting me. So that's the difference, yeah.
I love that. I love that we are talking about a pre-existing relationship. And I see that already, foundationally, that attachment was not there. How did that difficult environment affect your studies?
Oh my God. School was something else. School was really tough because, number one, I went to boarding in standard 5. And let me tell you, for me, it was relief.
Oh.
You see, the way people have homesick.
Yeah.
I was like, you are homesick. You want to go home. I could not understand. Whereas me, I wanted to stay in school. In school, I feel I'm not being judged. I'm not afraid. I'm in my element. I can be weirdo without being pointed fingers at. Like, just by God's grace, I was naturally an intelligent child. So at least I have one thing that even though you guys are seeing me, I'm weird, I'm doing well in class,
What do you mean seeing you weird? Were you exhibiting?
Yes, because of a condition that I would later know.
Yeah.
I would later discover that I had ADHD. And meaning that I was neurodivergent. Neurodivergent simply means that the way my brain is structured is not in the normal, typical, conventional way. My brain functions in a different way, which makes me do things in a different way.
Right.
So you would find when other students, my goodness, like now primary school, wow, we would be waking up at 4 to go to the common room. Those people who are in Monyeri complex, they know. You wake up at 4, you first go for prep in the common room, and then you go for breakfast and then go to class. You see that morning prep, oh my God. Me, I wouldn't manage. Yani, you would almost never catch me reading. But in the exam, I'm tops.
Oh.
So people would wonder, how do we marry those two, But it's because in spite of the fact that I was not being able, I was just not functioning like the other kids. You understand? I was neurodivergent. The opposite of neurodivergent is neurotypical. Because neurotypical is people whose brains are normal. Their brains are able to produce all the chemicals that they need for their executive functions, for their motor skills, for their,
Yeah.
But for a neurodivergent person, either a certain chemical is lacking. For me, dopamine and serotonin, the things that affect my executive functions. But at that time, I did not know. So all through my teenagehood, primary school, secondary school, I was just that weirdo.
Just define for us executive function.
Okay, executive functions, there are like 11 of them, but I'll mention as many as I can remember because among them is memory. Now, when I say the examples of them, that's what executive functions are.
Okay.
There's memory,
Uh-huh.
there's organization,
Uh-huh.
prioritization, self-monitoring, time management, emotional regulation, and the others. For real, I cannot remember the others, but there are 11. But now you see, when my brain is lacking the chemical that assists in all those executive functions, I'm struggling with memory.
Yeah.
I am struggling with time management.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with
Concentration.
concentration. Yes, concentration is among them. So we were at 6, so we are still going. Yes, concentration. I'm struggling with self-regulation.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with self-monitoring. And there's a difference between self-regulation and self-monitoring.
What's the difference?
The difference is self-regulation is you're able to understand cues. When somebody, let's say, when you're saying something that is hurting me, there is a way I can read you and know that I should stop. For somebody who has ADHD, it takes them twice the effort to understand that cue.
Yeah, I've sat with people and I'm trying to give them cues.
Yes.
Shh. They're not stopping.
Yes, And then now self-monitoring is when you know when you're crossing the line. Let's say in a party. I always give this example because it's very common in the ADHD community. You find that so many people that have ADHD have a certain addiction.
Oh.
And why? Because they're not naturally able to self-monitor. They're not able to go on social media and have enough. They're not able to tell themselves that I have had enough. They're not able to take one drink and it's enough. They'll stop when the crate is done. Or they're not able to smoke one cigarette and it's enough. They start with weed and then now cigarettes and then they can't stop.
Okay.
They're not able, that's self-monitoring. So back to studies. So I was really struggling with my executive function, so I was always that weirdo. At the same time, people are not able to understand how you function. But I was safer at home I was safer at school than at home.
Yeah.
You see, like the way you've gotten an A in 6 subjects, and then the 7th subject, you've gotten a B+.
Oh, not even
The question would be, why did you not get an A in these like the rest? You see? And I remember, by the way, in many of our conflicts, and very bitter ones, like, the conflicts that would go on at home are bitter conflicts.
Just paint a picture of one, the worst.
The worst was actually in 2018, but we will come to that.
Okay.
Yes, we'll come to that. In one of those, in many of those bitter fights, I remember asking my parents, how come I'm so celebrated outside? And then when I come back at home, the picture that is painted is so dull. Whom should I believe? Should I believe they're outside, or should I believe this picture? I was so confused, So I remember now that is primary. I remember even in secondary school, that's when I attempted suicide for the first time.
Oh, it got there.
Really bad. really, kwanza secondary school now, what added salt to the injury is the fact that kulitokea a big conflict that was involving my parents and my elder sibling, whom I love so much, my elder brother. And you see, he was the sibling whom I was closest to. You see that partner in crime? Yeah. He was my partner in crime. And then now he has made a mistake and it's being blown. And you know, right now when I am much grown, I understand why my dad would feel so bad about it. But also in his reaction, I could see a projection of his inner wounds without him knowing and without all of us knowing. You know?
Yeah.
I wish I had known those things at that time, you know. So that key situation really, really threw me off, and it made home now even more undesirable because I remember now I'm the one who was Kofi Annaning between my brother and my parents.
You, the scared child who always wants to hide.
Imagine, like I'm asking my dad, is this not your son? Can't you just forgive him? Like, can't you just understand he did this because of this and this? Can you just call him for you guys to talk? What? Who are you telling that? Hey, well, it was really bad. Really bad. And me going back to school was just, I now started crying a lot, isolating myself even more, sleeping now even much in class. And it just got to levels where my teachers now even started noticing. Plus, I had a very persistent headache that was not going away, which is a classic sign of depression or unending stress. Yeah, it's something that just needs to get checked. You see, so my teachers started noticing that this child, something is going wrong. And when they probed me enough to the place that I had to talk, because they had tried before and I didn't talk. So when they followed it up, I opened up about what was happening at home, all the aggression. Yani kwanza, I do remember times when my dad beat me numb. Like, ushai chapo until you're no longer feeling pain, you're just waiting for them to finish. And I do remember a time when he beat me until a leather belt broke.
No.
Do you know a leather belt before it
Snaps.
before it snaps? Huh? By the time he was done, I was nose bleeding. It was just chaos, you know. So
Studies.
yes, it really affected my studies in that way. Throughout my school life, I was just depressed. And when I told my teachers about it, she insisted, and I also added to her that please ensure you don't tell my parents during academic day. Well, she did, and I was beaten even more. Yes, and that is high school. I'm all grown. It's war. Yani unaonwa vita hadi.
Yeah. That's
It's interesting that we can laugh about it right now, but at that time, it was not funny. Yeah, so even into campus, it did affect me because I ensured for all holidays I went home a maximum of 3 days. And the first day is of traveling. The second day is of sleeping over. The third day is for traveling back.
And why are you going home? What was your reason why you had to go home for those 3 days?
Because my parents are the ones who were paying school fees.
Like to pay homemade?
Yes.
To sign the ready?
Yes.
I'm on holiday, bye. Yeah.
Yes, I came. And plus, I don't want to be denied pocket money. And I don't want to look unruly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm really trying to protect my mental health, because by the time I was in campus, I started therapy session. My introduction to therapy was through guidance and counseling in high school. So by the time I was getting to campus, I was ready to fight. Plus, in my first year of campus, I attempted suicide again.
Yeah, I was going to go there. What did that attempt look like? What did you...
Hey, taking medicines like many tablets.
Overdose.
Yes. And
did it affect you?
The first one was interrupted by a friend, and the second one, my parents intercepted before I could do it. I had planned to do it in the evening, and when I let them know about it, they dropped me off to a counselor. And by that time, Thank God my mom had started her master's in counseling psychology. So now they had a better understanding. Although it was a very painful moment for them, I could see the desperation in their eyes when they were dropping me off to that counselor. But it saved my life, and I thank them for that. Like, and if you see us today having that conversation about mental health, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So they have come a long way. In fact, today they are the ones who are advocating for parents to take their children to therapy. You see, we've come a long way. But when I went to campus after my introduction to counseling and therapy through guidance and counseling in high school, in campus, I went full force into fighting. After my second attempt of suicide, I decided to fight for my mental health. I decided I'll not try it again. Let me know what is usually underlaying all this stress that I have and all the depression, you know. So I would go for a lot of counseling, and it is in those sessions that I got to understand how childhood trauma was playing a big role in the struggles that I was having, and also understanding where my parents were coming from, why they were the way they were, and how I can be a better person, how I can change the narrative. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. We've covered so much with her story. First of all, studies, the role of guidance and counseling. How can a teacher know, for example, that a child is troubled? How can a teacher pick out a child who is troubled and one who is just unruly and needs discipline?
They are both the same.
Oh.
A child who's unruly and needs discipline, it's because there's a disconnect somewhere. And children are the best in terms of acting out, because they can act it out during class, during prayers. You find I never used to understand before why somebody will laugh when you're praying to God. But then now you see those are the key things that to pick out.
Yeah.
Tend to draw attention towards. And it's very subconscious. It's very subconscious for kids.
For her, it's interesting because she was receptive. There are children who will fight that assistance.
Yeah. And when she was younger, she didn't have access. And she was in a boarding school. Even makes things worse. Because now, the thing that you're yearning for, it's at home. And you have to see or meet that, have that feeling.
Yeah.
When you're going for holidays. But now you are in a situation where you are in a boarding school and you've not attached well. So when you're there, that's why you're wondering, why are people homesick? You should be school sick.
Yeah.
You don't want to go home.
Yeah.
So you can see how that was happening.
Yeah.
And in this context, especially when she was talking about executive functions, maybe I can just break them down a little bit and just give people a clear picture, because she has put it very nicely, especially on ADHD. And what that means is I'm going to give the 3 layers on our brain function, where the first one is the id, and then we have ego, and then super ego.
Id, ego, and super ego.
So id is the normal functions all animals have. So we are mammals, we are animals. So these are the key functions. I eat when I'm hungry. I go for long or short calls. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
There's mating. We mate for procreation. Then that's the id. So all mammals, we all have that. Then we have now the ego. Now that differentiates us from animals and then humans. Differentiating Alex from Alexander. Now. So if Alex the dog and Alexander. So what?
Yeah, tell us about Alex the dog. Just for me, I know the story. But guys are wondering why I'm going Alexander.
Yeah, you stop me. Yeah. So my short form of my name is Alex.
Yeah.
But then when I was younger, also a childhood,
Tráumá.
I met a dog called Alex. So I felt like I cannot be compared to this creature.
Yeah.
It's so fluffy and vulnerable.
Yeah.
It will a lion, okay, but it's a dog. So I insist on full Alexander.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, basically, when the ego now differentiates us, that's where you can see now where the ego comes in. So the ego part of the brain is you need to eat. You need to go for like short call, long calls. So the difference between me and Alex, is I will go to the washrooms. I'll walk. Now that's the ego part.
Yeah.
My brain working.
Okay.
I'll go to the toilet. But the dog will just go to the corner or somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, that's their level of ego, which is really nice because they'll go to a corner or somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we have the super ego, or the executive functions, you know. So I'll go to the toilet decently, I'll flush, I'll wash my hands, I'll leave the place clean and decent. So there's a difference of you going to the toilet, you can just go and come out. Then you can, the super ego tells you need to be responsible.
There are people who don't have super ego.
Yes, so super ego. People miss super ego a lot.
Yeah.
So there are people who don't have super ego.
Okay.
And it's not that they don't have.
No, is that a joke or for real?
No, they have it.
They struggle.
Where they struggle with it.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's now the executive part. For example, like the way she mentioned with ADHD, you know, self-regulation. So that's part of it.
Or like, okay, someone with ADHD, not you, of course, might go and forget to flush.
Might.
Okay.
Might. But now you cannot say everybody doesn't flush at toilet, especially in public facilities in town. They have ADHD. No, they just
Some just have bad manners. And then, okay.
Yes. Or even sometimes we have very fancy toilets in various hotels.
Yeah.
You don't know how to operate.
Yeah.
Just leave. So sometimes that's the case.
Yeah, okay.
But the functioning of the brain is the id, and even the id, like even intimacy or mating, you can't just do it. You have to be decent. Now the ego comes in where you also assess this person.
Yeah.
Are you my mate? You know, like unlike Alex, who will just jump on any other.
Alex the dog.
Alex the dog now. Who jump on any other dog,
Yeah.
provided it has that need.
Yeah.
So you see. So the difference between us now, the ego regulates us so that we cannot do it outside.
Yeah.
Where?
And not just with anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the super ego now can even self-regulate even more. Like, you know, you're saying, no, in the confines of this and this. Now you have rules. So those are the extreme rules that we put, like, no, in the confines of this and this, in the context of protection and safety and marriage, you know, now that's the super ego. But now this ego just decide, okay, not outside, but inside, but anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and when we balance this, they all support. Because it starts from this level, this lower level, which initiates the nice and the natural way. That's why sometimes you use too much super ego. What happens is your love is mechanical. You have structure and rules and nin. So you can even schedule like mating times, like Wednesday 6 p.m. After Wednesday it's Friday 2 p.m. You see, that's too much. Then somebody tells you, I want some little passion and fire. So they're just saying we need that id, you know, that animalistic instinct. You see me, you just yeah, like the dog. So they need to balance, and they need. So when she was mentioning about the executive functions, is that people with ADHD actually have the two functions. But now this executive that has extreme rules and boxing, as she mentioned, it's a bit difficult, and the fluidity is just needed every time. But that's, you know, it's not really. They don't need to master it a lot.
Yeah.
40% is good to survive and have a decent and be safe, because the issue of super ego is just safety.
Okay.
It assesses, it gives things rules, and I cannot. So the order comes in, you are safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go into recovery. So, first of all, when you're an adult, to know that you have a problem, and then what to do about it.
It is in a lot of therapy and a lot of introspection that I got to realize the bigger picture, you know, because for somebody who's looking at our situation from outside, they're just seeing dysfunction. But I am seeing unhealed wounds in my mom, unhealed wounds in my dad, unhealed wounds in me inflicted by them unintentionally. Because remember, I told you my dad has always said that I desire to bring up my family in a different way, you know. So he has the intention to do it differently, but because of the wounds that have not been healed, he can't help it but inflict. Wounded people wound others. Bleeding people bleed on others, you see. Yeah, so maybe the two things that I can say are the main contributors to recovery are: number one, you have to resolve. You have to realize that there is dysfunction and decide that I will do it differently. You see, you need to hate the dysfunction so much that you're willing to do anything. Then you're willing to pay the price, which is the second thing.
Yeah.
Resolve and then pay the price.
Yeah.
You're willing to pay the price for the healing. And that is why many people do not understand why I'm always in therapy. But then I did have one person ask me, will you ever get off therapy? Something must be wrong with you if you have to keep going. Let me tell you, if it will take me a lifetime of therapy to ensure that I do not carry on the trauma to my children, I'll go for it.
Me too.
I'm willing to pay the price, you see.
Yeah.
So you have to resolve. For you to recover from childhood trauma, you have to hate the dysfunction so much, or you have to make that, resolve is not just a decision, it's a ferocious decision. And then number 2, pay the price. Go for therapy if you have to. Look for all those sessions that talk about. Look for psychics. Google psychics right now,
Oh, yeah. Someone who has resolved will hear anything and Google it.
Yes, and look for the help where it is. Attend sessions like Alabastron, that are so intentional on healing the inner child, debunking traumas and things like those. And you will not even feel the pain to pay for things like this. Let me tell you, see, in campus, I would only survive the amount of, the amount of pocket money that I was given was well calculated to survive me through a month. It used to be every month.
Okay.
But I would go out of my way to do other things here and here to afford therapy. Yani I was ready.
Wow.
Yes, I was ready to sell carrots, sell warus, put some fruiteria, sell fruit juice,
Yeah.
anything to just afford that extra 3,000 shillings for this week's therapy. Unless you're ferocious enough like that to, number 1, resolve that you don't want dysfunction anymore, and number 2, to pay the price, that's how recovery comes forward.
Just real quick, describe dysfunction. When you say that, there might be someone who's watching us and thinking, yeah, my mom needs to hear this, or my husband needs to hear this. But how do you notice the dysfunction within yourself? So for you, what was the dysfunction that you felt like this has got to stop?
I want to paint this picture. My parents were the way they were because of the way they were raised. What would prevent me from coming out the same way? You understand? Realizing that, so my parents are the way they are because of the way they were raised. I am very likely to come out to project the same similar, yes, because of the way I was raised. How can I intercept that?
Okay.
You
wanted to intercept.
Yes, that's the dysfunction. And that's where the therapy comes in. Heal by fire, by force. Like you just decide that I'm not carrying this forward. Those words that were told to you that were so painful, that minute you feel like telling your child that, hold yourself and say, you're blessed. You will conquer nations. You will thrive. You will become a good mother. Because there's so many times unintentionally that my dad did tell me, who will marry you now?
Oh, coming from your dad, that's intense.
Yes, who can bear, who can put up with you, And every time that stings so badly, I look at my husband and I want this marriage to work. I'll pay the price. I'll go for therapy. I'll heal so that I don't sabotage my own marriage. Because you know what? That voice rings in your head. And sometimes you will find yourself doing things that will sabotage your marriage. You believe so much that nobody can stand you that you ensure nobody can stand you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that time when my little baby girl is grown and I'm feeling like telling her, men cannot stand this, I will tell her, you hold yourself, you will be a good wife. You will make the best mother,
Yeah.
Yes, so I hope I have answered your question.
You have. Yeah. I'm going to just quickly throw it to Alexander.
No, it's okay.
I'll get used to it. Okay. Self-awareness is so difficult. There are things about myself that it has taken me incredibly long to see. So I would see that I can see it easily from others, like this one has an anger problem, but it took me a very long time to see the areas where I had an anger problem. How can one accelerate self-awareness? I know you also have tools and tests and use of technology. Just take us through very practical ways of introspection.
So maybe we can do an exercise.
Yeah.
So that we can see. So I'm just going to have a jar here.
That's sweet. Finally.
Finally.
I help you.
Yeah. I'm sweating. Yeah.
No problem.
So I'm just going to have a little demonstration about childhood trauma and how it works and how it piles up. And using her story, we're going to use her story to do that. So this is you. This is you. This is your pure soul, newly born. So we're going to talk about small things, so small stressors, small traumas. And every time you mention something, even that word that is ringing, from age 0 to high school, just throw a sweet in here. So, but before we do that, I just want you to see how clear this soul is. So I think I'm going to, now you can see the light. So the more we're going to put in more sweets. Now this light is the joy, the bubbliness of a child, the playfulness like a kitten. You know, the way kids just so nice and so kind. Auntie, you look so good today. Just randomly out of nowhere, dishing out affirmations.
Yeah, but they can also tell you, hey, auntie, today how do you look? You know?
Yeah, and they are honest and very innocent. When they're saying that in a correction mode. Like, hi, auntie.
I don't approve.
Yeah, I don't approve. Like, I don't see it, you know. So, like, we can mention one or two things. And when maybe you just mention, like, I can use an example. Let's say even the act of not wanting to go home. You're in class 5, you're in boarding school, and you don't want to go home. So the fear of going home, you throw some sweets. So you can just be mentioning. You can not one or two. You can even pick a bunch if it was heavy. The heavier the word, the sentence, the more you throw.
Okay. When I hear my dad coming and I run away.
Okay. That's average.
When I see my dad and my mom quarreling, and my mom cries and I feel so bad.
That's a lot.
Yes. When I so much desire to be affirmed my identity, especially because I'm an adolescent, I'm starting to know myself, and I desire my dad to love on me, and he doesn't, or he just does not know how to do it.
There's more sweets. Okay. The list is longer. The sweets are more.
Yes. When he tells me something bad, like, who will marry you? And he tells me, what kind of a mother will you be? Can you even manage a home? Look, your siblings are better than you. What are those pimples on your face? You look bad. And very many things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes. And what else?
And your mom, is there anything your mom did that traumatized you?
My mom just played along. What could she have said?
I think that deserves some sweets in the bottle.
Not defending me. Yani not, right?
Wow.
Yes, because actually she does not want, she does not want to get into trouble with my dad.
Yeah.
And she knows that if she defends me, by the way, she would silently come at night after we've had such a bitter fight with my dad. She'd tuck me in and tell me, I'm so sorry. You're not all those things that you had.
Okay, you can take out some sweets. In her defense.
In her defense, you take out some.
She tried. She did what she knew. I think she was also confused.
She was also confused. She would only later, when she did her master's in counseling psychology and she started now knowing more, it's when that confusion left, you see. Yes, so what more? What else? Oh, just desiring my parents' love.
Yeah.
Is like this whole thing plus 5 more, because every child wants to feel accepted. Home should be the place we should be running towards, not away from.
Wow.
Yes, I agree. I'm here applauding.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can see the level of attachment and how attachment actually plays a very big role.
Yeah.
Because now the whole packet was based on attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the others were, the sentiments and the sentences and the actions. But so what happens is now this is a child. This is her at class 7, maybe at form 2, your first attempt. You see? So it's so full, and she has not even mentioned the issue with the brother.
Yeah.
Where she had to mediate, and she was quote unquote maybe the outsider because you cannot even talk to your dad. He comes home, you run away. So you can see we're not even half of her journey is not even in this jar. This is only a child. So what happens is now the light starts to dim. So that bubbly innocent child, you can see the difference. There's no light coming on the other end. So this is what happens. But sometimes when you try and lift yourself up, so you lift the light up a little bit so that you can see a little light. So, but the incongruence or the lack of authenticity, that whatever you're feeling inside is not what you're showing, because now she was a smart girl.
Yeah.
And she used to perform well in school.
Yeah.
Despite now ADHD, which she didn't know, but also despite the challenge that she was facing. It's because now she has to perform to join the normal people, to join the normal society. And through her performance, we all assume, especially teachers, she's doing well in school.
Yeah.
She's probably fine.
She's fine.
Yeah, she's fine. She's just having, and when she starts changing, it's adolescence. Yeah, that time I was there, but you're not trying to look into the deeper part and the things that she's doing. And so what happens is when you're trying to heal the inner child, when you are trying to debunk or even introspection, taking inventory, taking stock. So basically this is what happens maybe during therapy when you are working on your inner child, and we start talking about them and taking an inventory of those words in specific ways. We journal. So you journal, I want to, feel better about myself, and I want my parents' love. And then my parents take a step and they go for counseling. And they also go for school to study what counseling is. So they don't know the front end, also the back end. So, you start now writing those things down and noting them down. So the more you write the pain and the issues that you're facing, journaling them down, you're also writing on the mitigation routes that we took, or the people who hurt us took. And if they're not taking, what can I do for myself to get over that?
Yeah.
For example, she do like this, do your left hand, no, your left hand. You see, she was supposed to be a bad wife.
Yeah.
But she got to the wife part.
She did. You
Celebrate your wins. So you celebrate your win and you write them down. I also got to that part. At least I'm a wife right now, and it's working, and I'm doing everything in my power to ensure that the marriage is working. And the best thing about it is she, despite marrying for herself and her happiness, she also has, that ringing, and she's going for therapy. So that doesn't mean like it's a one-off treatment plan, or it's a one-off thing that it goes away once. So, but the moment now you start taking stock,
Yeah.
you keep removing things. For example, she's now over that, and she's focusing on her child, knowing that I might be projecting, I might be passing this on to my child, and you write those things down. So when you keep taking stock, what happens is the jar starts getting lighter.
Yeah.
And you can get your inner child and that bubbliness and the light even at 60. Doesn't need to be.
Wow.
Yes, and you can work on it
Yes.
just to enjoy the inner self and the inner joys that you're missing as a child, even as an older person. So the inner child is always there, will always be alive, and when you're alive, it's always alive. So there are things that you do just to satisfy your inner child, not you as an adult. And the more you keep taking stock, the more you keep also exposure therapy, talking about it.
Yes.
You expose yourself to the pain in a way that now it's a story.
Please draw a line, because I find that your narration is so balanced. I can tell there are things you're not saying, and that is very much in order. As opposed to someone who comes and just vomits everything, and you can tell, there's a problem here. Exposure therapy can be slippery. Just say something about that.
Yeah, it can be slippery. It needs to be in the confines of the direction you're taking therapeutically. So you can't just start with exposure therapy. And for example, it's a GBV issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a child, I'm your therapist. I cannot start with that. and I cannot expose you to that. Because what will happen is I'll steer all my conversations towards that.
Okay.
So I need to create rapport with you and make a safe space. Then you take me on a journey. And as we get to the GBV section, we are already going towards that. And express therapy is not good for such, but for such issues. But then for other issues, especially issues to do with esteem, express therapy usually makes you more resilient.
Exposure therapy is me talking about it to a therapist.
I might also expose the triggers to you.
Oh.
Yes, like for addicts, I just expose a trigger. So you have an addiction, you love alcohol.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just
come with a bottle.
Yes, even if it's not alcohol, just the trigger, just to see. It's also a type of measurement. It's like a scale.
Is it dangerous?
No, I'm not using alcohol. I'm just placing a bottle, which is actually.
But I'll come from here and go and drink.
Now, that's exactly what I was saying. You cannot do that in the first instance. It's through rapport and you see the need to expose.
Yeah.
That's when you expose.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a journey that people take, and she's been on a journey. Yeah. And the journey, I know it has a trajectory, and we are heading towards this. Yeah. And when we finish with this, we're working on this. Okay. So sometimes we might find relapses, so this switch might come back once in a while.
Oh.
Yes, but in most cases, the more you keep unloading and discussing these things, the more you get out of the jar. So the more you get out of the jar, remember we made an effort earlier because the light was down here. Then we tried to elevate it around here, but the switches were blocking. But right now you can see a bit of light.
Yes.
But it's not really clear.
Yeah.
And that's how you start regaining your inner child and that natural joy that you have inside of you.
Yeah.
So the more you start unpacking, the more the light is brighter. The more the light is brighter. And the funny thing about unpacking is the more you unpack, the more you also uplift yourself and your esteem. So this light is also going up while you're unpacking. So you'll not unpack everything, of course. You'll remain with some scars. Yeah. But they will not mean anything because this light is way up.
Yeah.
It will not block anything. It will just be a story. Yeah. Once upon a time, I went through pain. But you're like, the way she was laughing about some things here.
Yeah.
Especially on ADHD.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you see, now that's the
light shining.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it goes down and now the light she's shining through, she can tell us like a story and not feel bad or pain about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good illustration. We have to end the episode. I feel like we still have a lot more to talk about. So thank you, Kelly, and thank you so much, Alexander. I've learned so much. I know we've all learned a lot. Please reach out to Alexander through...
Yeah. Oh, so you can find us. We are PsychX. You can just Google PsychX on all our social media platforms. We're having also teen programs. We go for boot camps. So every holiday we have boot camps. And you can follow us on our social media pages so you can see our posts, you can see what we do for the children. Also, we go to schools and support. So we've been supporting schools, especially during this third term has had a lot of issues, and especially with suicidal ideation and also attempts.
Yeah.
We've been trying to support the schools and students. Also, sexuality, identity. Now remember what we talked about, attachment. You want to attach in a different way. So as PsychX, we provide these services for students and children. We have child psychologists on our platform. We have speech therapists, and we also just have coaches who work with the kids during it. So www.psychx.io is our website. You'll find 65 therapists on our platform. You can choose which one you want, especially on the category. So if you're a child psychologists, then they are just there and you can click and book. We also have people who support us and donate. You can also donate, but if you don't want to donate and support, you can also follow us on our social media pages so that people who support us and donate for these sessions, and then we give them free to the public. So people pay for you anonymously and you just enjoy the therapy sessions. But if your child is struggling, ensure that you come for these services. We over the holidays also we have on Saturdays, we meet at the Museum of Kenya just to have therapy sessions with kids and just, it's called nature therapy.
Yeah.
And we feed the birds, so there's bird feeding, then we can see the nature, and there's a very nice trail along Nature Kenya, and they are one of our partners, so we're really looking forward to having your kids with us and just talk about these things that they're facing. Yes.
Wow. How can people reach you, those who want to talk to you and those who want to purchase your book?
Those who want to talk to me, they can find me on WhatsApp 0742 0790 12. To purchase the book, you can find it on Nuria Bookstore. It's called The Art of Being Neurospicy. It's called The Art of Being Neurospicy. We will link a link of the access to the book somewhere, and then or if that's a long process, you can just WhatsApp me via 0742 0790 12 and tell me you want the book. I will arrange for how it will get to you. Yes.
Okay, thank you both for coming, and thank you all for watching. See you next time. Bye.